Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today I'm stoked to welcome Like Moths To Flames vocalist Chris Roetter to the podcast. Like Moths To Flames' new record, The Cycles of Trying to Cope, is out today on UNFD Records. Chris talks about the struggles and doubt that come with trying to keep a band together, Rise Records and the Ohio metalcore scene, getting to work with Will Putney, exploring emotion on the new record, deciding to take a break from touring, and more. If this is your first episode of As the Story Grows, thanks for checking the show out. I would love it if you subscribed to the podcast feed on your platform of choice. You can find links to our Discord server, Patreon page, and mailing list in the show notes or at asthestorygrows.com. Come hang out. Enjoy today's chat with Chris from Like Moths To Flames.
Yeah, good to meet you, man. Thanks for having me.
I saw you guys live on your tour with Currents, and my wife went with me, and she had never been to like a hardcore metal show before. That's not her thing. Like, come along, it'll be fun. I'm taking photos, like, it'll be great. So she did, and she was like, yeah, that was pretty fun. She was like, I don't know about that second to last band, which was you guys. She's like, I just don't understand that vibe. And I was like, yeah, you don't get the, like, I want to see some ignorant shit out of it. I was like, I understand why you would not vibe with that.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody.
No. But she had a good time. She took the camera and took some photos from the side. So she had a good time. But it was
That's
funny.
a cool one to come out to as well. That was like a pretty monumental one for our crew. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good time. Are you still up in Ohio?
Yeah. I'm the only dude that's still here, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the band members, it's changed so much over the years. Like, I'll just start there. Like, have you ever thought, like, I don't know, I can't keep members. Maybe it's time to put this thing to bed?
All the time, bro.
Yeah.
If Zach wouldn't have joined in 2015, like when he did, 2016, he's been kind of like just like my number two man. There's often times where he's been, kind of like the number one man over the last couple of years. So I think it's more, like, I'm 34, this is like a lot of our second, third, fourth time doing a band and stuff. So as some people are a little bit more persistent about it, myself being one of them. But I mean, that's like a nagging thought. But I think there is as much as I say that, I think the years that we've had, like, since UNFD era have been kind of just like a resurgence. We never really had a lot of these feelings that we're getting to experience. So it's a double-edged sword for sure. Yeah.
Was it tough as you're like, you have this record coming out with UNFD and then the world shuts down and it's just like, what the fuck now?
Honestly, bro, that was actually terrible because we were in the studio for like the first month of all that stuff happening.
Oh, geez.
And, we come back home and like the first week that we're back home is all this stuff going down. And, we I don't really thought it all through, being like, this is going to be something that kind of derails, whatever we're doing. But I mean, the team was great. I think given the circumstances, it wasn't like, the best situation for us, obviously not being able to tour on a record and not being able to like go actively play and talk to fans. Cause I think that's like a big part of us. There's been often, a lot more times than not where kids are like, I saw the band live and it clicked then, it didn't click before then. So, I mean, it was a learning process for sure. Cause now we feel like that record cycle is just done and over with and we're starting to like move on.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Yeah. Just a weird time.
I mean, it's been cool to, like, I feel like we kind of tried to dip back into it in the height of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it slowed down and then we tried to go back in the height of it again. So we just have like bad timing with some of that stuff, but it is what it is.
Yeah. What was growing up like for you?
A lot of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing music since I was about 15, moved around a ton, trying to like be the good son for my mom. She was moving a ton, changed high schools a shit ton. Yeah, I mean, it's like the very like cliche broken home, you know, like middle America vibe of just kind of like, I mean, you know, just like there's probably times where my parents questioned if this is what I should do. And there's times where I even question if it's what I should do. But,
yeah,
you know, there's a weird, I feel just like a universal tug to still like want to do some of it. I still love being creative. I do art a ton and stuff to kind of just stay fluid when the band isn't touring. So there's always like a part of me that's been like invested in music and stuff. I remember going and buying, you know, like CDs of bands based off of like, you know, smart punk and Warped Tour compilations and stuff like that. So like I kind of feel a bit like an OG to some of it, but you know, there's people who are older than me that have been doing it for longer and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I think ultimately everything led to me being here, or you know, stupid to say, or else I wouldn't be here, obviously. But you know, just like going back to like the member stuff. You know, it's just like one of those things where if at the end of the day I can take a lesson from it and kind of learn from some of the experiences, whether they'd been my fault or just somebody bowing out or just, you know, somebody not being a well suited for the band. Yeah, I mean, everything has just been kind of a weird snowball learning experience for me. So my mom's always been like, everything happens for a reason. So that's kind of just how I try to take some of the lessons, just roll with the punches.
Yeah. Yeah. What got you into music?
Kind of what I said in the last question of like, so I had a buddy, we would go to like summer camps together. We volunteered for like this weird program at the YMCA that would take you to like, just like a weird summer camp where you would like mingle with other kids from like the YMCA. It's what we did, you know, the first couple years of like junior high school and high school. And I remember he brought a burnt CD and it had the Used, the Treyu, Under Oath. And I remember we were just sitting in like this dorm. They were like dorm style rooms that we would share at the camp. And he just starts screaming along to this Used track. And I'm like, bro, you're so weird. Like, what are you doing? He was a couple years older than me. And yeah, that was just like my gateway into all of it. You know, him being like, you could probably do this, bro. And then, you know, like us just screaming in his car to random demos and, you know, all of these like compilations that we would try to find online. Yeah, it was, I feel like back then we were spoiled in a different way. Now everything's like super accessible at your fingertips. So you're like genuinely spoiled. But like, if you knew where to look back in the day, there was a lot of outlets to find really cool, what felt like underground music and stuff. And I mean, that was even in like the prime of AP magazine and stuff. So I remember like getting those when I was like 14, 15, plastering it all over like my walls and in my bedroom and stuff like that. So I think there were always kind of things that like there were like signs that were pointing me to like this direction. But it's like kind of weird because the dude that like I like inherited my love for music, he just became like a dude that owned a bar in Austin, Texas, and like never really tried to like pursue the thing. But like, I don't know, it was kind of cool to just like inherit the craft from him.
Yeah. Yeah. That generation of like music, it's like, it was all underground, but it was just hitting the surface there. It's like peak Warped Tour bands and like, Under Oath and Paramore and the Used, My Chem, like everybody getting huge at that moment. And I remember, I'd go to Borders, read AP, and then I could walk over to Best Buy and buy the CD of the band I just read an interview with. And like, it was great.
Yeah. It was I feel like, I don't want to sound like, you know, one of those old guys that's like screaming at the sky, but it does kind of seem like it was one of like the better times, something that like, you know, it's probably nostalgia that I just like really, there's like a lot of times where I can close my eyes and like very actively put myself in those scenarios. Like I remember walking to Best Buy, grabbing the Define the Great Line Under Oath double. It was a DVD and CD release. And I went, I was like, pop it in, just sat there and just watched it. Just like you don't really get that anymore. But
yeah,
I mean, I guess in the same breath you do, because like, you know, there's vloggers and stuff like that. So it's all just different. So
it's a different experience for sure. Yeah, I remember going and you buy CDs, you pop it in the car, and like you drive home listening to it, or you get home and you open up the booklet, and yeah, that doesn't exist in the same way, but yeah, this generation has something different. But yeah, let's talk about Like Moths to Flames. How did this project get started? I know you were in other bands before this, but
yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, this was like my third band. I was in a band called Amorosa for an EP. A band called A Graceful for a record, and then they all were kind of like really, really short-lived. We were young kids, you know, 16, 17, 18, trying to like do projects on labels with dudes that are like double our age and stuff. So some of it, like when I think about it, felt like, you know, pretty predatory, not in a way that was like, you know, actually bad, but, you know, it was kind of just like, you know, we were young, kind of just trying to learn from it. And I remember I had a meeting with a dude who was managing A Graceful. We went in to meet with our label. He was like, yeah, we just don't want to do another record. And dude who was managing us was like, yo, man, I think your best option is to just start another project, because like I can't help you here. And I hit up a buddy that I knew from Columbus and was like, hey, man, you want to start a band? And his band, coincidentally enough, was having like the same fallout with the same label, and just kind of like absorbed his band, and then we kind of, you know, started it. But yeah, it was a very, I mean, even if you look at like the history of the members, even back then, it was like very hard to like keep people on or get people invested, because everybody had that like burn of being like, you know, this is what I wanted to do, and we got shelved before we could even come out, kind of thing.
Yeah. And
yeah, I mean, we were really persistent. We all lived in like the same house and just tried to make it work. And luckily enough, I think, based on my experience with Amorosa and Rise, Craig, who was one of the heads at Rise, hit me up on Facebook of all places. I remember I was sitting in my bedroom with who's my wife at the time, and I was just like, holy shit. I'm like jumping up and down, like, bro, what the fuck is happening? And, you know, like I run up and tell all the dudes, and, you know, I mean, at that point it was like a no looking back kind of thing, but yeah, it was really just a product of like a lot of failed, you know, first you don't try, you fail. Second, you know, third time's a charm for this one. But, yeah, I mean, I guess it's all perspective. So
yeah,
there was a lot of, I mean, even like trying to figure out what we wanted to do as a band, but I mean, even back then, just being I guess just like feeling like we were doing something.
Yeah.
You know, just like out of our friend's mom's basement kind of thing. It was really cool.
Yeah. Was there something happening in like the Columbus region at that time? I mean, like I've talked to some other older Rise bands, and all from like Ohio. Like, what was it about that time and that like place that made like metalcore huge, especially with Rise Records?
I don't know if it was like them just seeing, I mean, kids, you know, like when I like think back to it, you know, like Prada, they were kind of like the ones who spearheaded the whole thing. And then Miss May I, they were friends of Prada, so they got a look. And then, you know, Attack was kind of the same. Like, it was all kind of, I think, right place, right time, but it definitely did feel like the mecca of just everything happening. There were a lot of just good venues, tours were coming through. You know, I think there was more of a demand for that kind of music before. You know, now I think it's easy to see things as being like oversaturated, but back then it was just like, cool, man, 10 awesome Ohio bands all stacked on a bill. Like, this is cool, Ohio, you know, on top of the world. But it's definitely fizzled out. I think in Columbus too, there's still a very prominent scene, but not as much like local, like, and maybe it's just because like I'm far removed from it too, which is like, that's on me for sure. But I definitely don't see as many shows popping up, you know, across the board. But yeah, that was a time where I mean, I really even feel like Ohio kind of just ran things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was the spot.
Yeah.
But there's still that. I think it got to the point where, like, you know, there were so many bands that were trying to make it out of Ohio. They made it out, didn't come back too much.
Right. Yeah.
And then the scene just kind of went. But now, like, there's a club that just popped up that gets like good actually good tours coming through. Like, we've played there a couple of times. I think Silent Planet just did their headliner there. So, like, you know, a lot of bands hit the market now, but yeah, that was a different time back then for sure.
Yeah. And as you get older, you kind of just age out of whatever's happening with the teenage scene, and like
for sure
how shows are, because, you know, I turned 40 this year, and it's like I'm not showing up at some house show with a bunch of teenagers, right? Like,
but yeah, they weird. Still have to be happening out there,
right? Yeah,
that never really like dies.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you guys ended up working with Will Putney on that first Moth record. Like, how did that connection come about, and what was it like? I mean, that's pretty early on in Will's engineering producing career, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were not one of like the first bands, but I think one of like the first bands from this scene that was like really trying to like go with him. I don't really know. I think I remember whenever we went to do the record, they sent us like a list of people that we could go with, and they thought this was somebody that would work well. And I'd seen that he did like, I think, Amity and Suicide Silence. We'd heard he was about to do the North Lane record. Honestly though, we owe Putney so much. Like, I was such a novice. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know how to use words, didn't know how to like, I was like a dude walking in being like, I don't know. And like, you know, I wish, you know, that there were times I was more prepared, but ultimately I think it led to like this version of me that you get. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade that time for the world. We've often talked about wanting to hit up Putney to work on some of the new material. But I think we're just like afraid to hit up people and have them be like, nah, we're good. So we've just kind of stayed like isolated in our own little world of stuff. But yeah, record 1, 2, 3, we're all in, or like under Putney's roof. And it was, you know, sometimes more trivial than others, but the first 2 records, I don't think I would trade like that experience for the world.
Yeah.
He's insane, man.
Oh yeah. I've gotten to talk to him a few times. He's like the busiest motherfucker in metal, right? Like, how he has time to do anything.
And do his own bands and shit.
Right. Yeah. He's a machine. And I think working with him kept you from like sounding like all the Joey Sturgis bands, which like there's nothing wrong with that, but it gives you something a little different, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, it could just be like me having a complex, but I feel like we've gotten umbrellaed with a lot of bands that like, I get it, but I think at the heart of the band, there were a lot of things that we did that were maybe, you know, they fall under like the umbrella of like generic metalcore or whatever, but I do think there were always like elements of the band that were a little deeper than that. I think it's just taken like a special listener to experience some of it. I do think that's why we've been able to kind of just like maintain, is because there are people that kind of really want to dig into the content and stuff, and that's you know, kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. What then leads you guys to UNFD Records?
They just seem like the best people. I won't throw anybody under the bus, but we've been mishandled a lot in our career. Just pretty much up until the last like 5-6 years. So really, whenever we got to UNFD, it was like, wow, this is what it's like to be a band that has like freedom of choice and the ability to do things that we want to do. And yeah, I mean, you know how most times you'll hear like horror stories about labels wanting bands to be like a certain version, or, you know, something that they're not. UNFD's never really asked us to do anything that we don't want to do. It just seems like when we give them stuff, they're stoked and they want to make it work. Yeah. And I mean, this most recent release has been kind of like a testament to that, because there's been so much that I can't even keep up with. They're so on top of everything that, like, you know, I'm having to follow like a bullet list of things to do, and if I don't hit something, I'm getting a text. And I like that though, because I've never had that, you know. It feels like we're kind of like a piece of clay and somebody's kind of molding it to what they want without us having to be, you know, like I said, something we're not.
Yeah.
They're great though.
Yeah. They're really, I mean, it's a solid roster and it's a smart label, and you need, you know, you come from like the peak CD era, and like things have changed so drastically over, you know, 10 years that it's like you need somebody on top of how things work now, because the music industry is so different.
It's been kind of weird to kind of like adapt to and evolve to everything that's been happening, just like because of what you just said with like, you know, I remember the third record that we did with Rise, we even got emails being like, yo, if this was in 2013, you guys would have sold X amount, but since streaming plays into it, we have this number for you. And it's like, that stinks. But, you know, like it's cool that we can use new metrics. And, you know, back in the day it was CD sales or nothing.
Right.
And now there's a lot of different things that you can use to kind of leverage your band into getting things, which I think is great.
This new album's called The Cycles of Trying to Cope. Talk to me about your lyrical process and approach to this record.
Pretty much beating every single emotion and thought in my head dead. Like we go in with demos, we dissect them, and then we go like this. Everybody disperses and starts doing their own thing. For me, it's a lot of just like isolating, pacing around the parking lot, replaying sections of songs. Zach and I have a good rapport of like, you know, I'll be like, yo, what were you feeling for this? Like, what is your vibe? Like, what do you see for the song? And we kind of like vibe out on just like, you know, brainstorm ideas on how I can like meet him in the middle, or the ideas that I have. It's become more of like a collaborative kind of like mood boarding process without me really having to you know, like sit and write with somebody. I never really that's not my vibe. I want it all to kind of feel from the heart and stuff. But
you like to bounce ideas off somebody.
Yeah. I think there are things where I think it's easy to get in the mindset of like, yeah, this is really sick, and go in one track and then get stuck. And that's what I do a lot. And sometimes it's a matter of like, you know, taking 3 steps back, seeing the whole picture. And Zach really helps do that. Really grounded dude, and just has like a lot of like genuine interest in music across the board. So he's just a good dude to, I mean, outside of just being like a great dude in general, he's just a good dude, good, smart dude that oftentimes puts a lot of stuff in perspective for me. So yeah, that record specifically was me like, I mean, dude, there were times where I didn't know if it was going to happen for sure. Just like finishing all of it. And I think it's just because of like how I write. I need everything to be like super particular. I'm just like really picky, that's my own problem. And then I try to make it not everybody else's problem. So I internalize all of these like thoughts, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And, you know, there'd be some nights where I would sit in the van writing, and I would pass out in the van, wake up at 8 in the morning and be like, holy shit, it's 8 in the morning. Like, I still have to write a verse and a half before I record today. Like, so it wasn't easy, but I think that just comes with the territory of like trying to write from a place where I feel connected to everything. I've had too many instances where I'm in the past where I'm like, man, I wish I would have like taken 2 days and just thought of something different here. But we've always been such like you got to do it now. It's got to be done now type thing that I've never really had that opportunity up until now. Like dudes are like overly prepared. So
yeah. You have this album kind of segmented in these chapters for the different emotional states. Was there any thoughts like maybe these should be different EPs, or did you want it to be like different parts of the album?
Honestly, all that was like a huge afterthought. I don't really think that it was it was never a conceptual idea from the beginning, but
Gotcha.
when you were
more like a design aesthetic or something.
I mean, like kind of, we just thought it would be a kind of a cool way to kind of transition it into a like conceptual feeling. Whereas like there are like every song covers a different set of emotions, even the songs that are similar themed, they all have a different realm that they fall into of just like anger or like something that I could like pinpoint it, you know, like it doesn't all have to be like anger. If a song is mad, like there's other emotions that fall under anger that, you know, the songs could kind of like be coupled with. And whenever we got some of like the marketing calls from UNFD, that was one of the ideas they presented us with, of kind of like seeing the album kind of as like a funnel of like Dante's Inferno, how it's like different series of hell that he has to go through in order to get to the end result. And the more I thought about it, that kind of was that encapsulated the idea of the record for me, was like having to go through these varying stages of like, you know, grief, sad things, whatever, to get to the end result, you know, to get to the whole feeling. I mean, I really couldn't be more stoked that they sent us that idea, because whenever they sent us that, I was like, yo, this is like the coolest thing I think I've ever been a part of. But I mean, we have ideas to do stuff like that in the future, of just like, we've tossed around the idea internally of doing like a kind of like a light and dark EP where we explore different sounds. You know, we've created two different parallels of the band, one that can write very like melodramatic music, and then one that can write very like aggressive, more on the angsty side of things. I think it'd be cool to kind of like isolate those in two separate releases, but you know, obviously that's a very different conversation. But in short, to get back to it, it was never like it was an afterthought for sure, which I think is a perk of just being able to pinpoint some of the songs in a certain way that we did, especially with the singles. But that was like a whole team effort to make all that happen. Gotcha.
Who did the album artwork?
Dude named Pierre. I don't know his last name. His which I should, but his handle is Royal Rumble with 2 R's in the middle, so it's Royal R Rumble. Insane artist, like very like imaginative things that like I couldn't even see in my head. He's able to kind of like capture with art. It was one of like UNFD sent us like 4 artists that we should like maybe try to use, and he was one. And it was like once we saw his portfolio, we were never looking back kind of thing. Just a big fan of like it kind of looks like a dirty Renaissance painting, with like some, you know, weird collage bits, and that's just like, I don't know, we wanted it to kind of feel like a hellscape while also being like kind of beautiful.
As a band, you've always had really cool album artwork or single artwork. Like, how important is the art to the music?
I think too important to me. Because like you know, like when we were just like getting into the combo of just like I do art, freelance artists do art for like other bands, merch, stuff like that. So I think my attention to detail is a little too much sometimes. So really, since we've been with UNFD, a lot of it has been me learning how to let the artists do what they want to do. So I just go to artists that I really trust, and I'm like, yo, do what you want to do, and here's like my ideas. But I think with Pierre, it was one of those like situations where when we got the artwork back, like I couldn't even respond to the team, because I was just like, what? Like, holy fuck, like this is ours, like this is crazy. So I think always been a little too important. And I just like care too much, because then, you know, like that's a double-edged sword, because kids will, you know, they'll be the one kid who's like, this artwork sucks, and it's like, yo, man, one of my best friends did this, shut the heck up. Like, so it's all perspective. You can't really take it too serious, but I mean, at the core, I'm building mood boards for dudes. I'm sending them like what I see in my head. I try to just make it as easy as I can for their job. So
somebody sends you something back and you're like, nope, this sucks. try again.
Well, see, that's also one of the downsides to like doing art in my own, just like my own life is I'll see and I'll be like, oh, I probably would have done this a little differently. And that's a weird thing to kind of detach from. But I don't know. It's just a perk of working with great artists on this record is we didn't have to worry about any of that. Yeah, we had one of the dudes at UNFD's team, Ross. He did the logo. When he sent us the logo, there was no let's do something else. It was like, yo, this is insane. This is cool. So we just got lucky with this one, really.
Nice. That's cool. Album's up May 10th. What's your plans for the summer? Do you have a tour plan lined up yet, or just sitting and waiting? Yeah,
we're kind of playing the waiting game. We have been since pretty much last year. I think our team's just like not wanting us to beat it dead because we've done so much supporting and so much just touring in general. I think they're trying to make sure everything like happens with a cause. So yeah, I mean, as of right now, nothing. I think they just want to see how the release goes and stuff like that. See how the Europe run goes. We haven't been to Europe in almost 10 years. So it's kind of just playing the waiting game.
Yeah. Is that like a new line of thought, whether it's post-COVID or in the era of streaming, where it's like you don't have to rush out there, like we have a new record, we have to tour it or else we don't make money here?
I mean,
or is it still like we're not
full
touring,
transparency?
we're not making money?
We've been so stressed because we've been at home for so long, but I think that's just like, I don't want to say the nature of things because there's bands out there that are, touring like crazy, but I think I just am trying to trust that our team's doing the right thing by letting us sit here and letting it marinate. The band's still doing like, well, we're doing better than we have in other areas of our career, which is weird. Like, sitting at home, we're selling like more merch than we have ever sold. So it's like, I don't know if that's a product of us sitting at home or just like, us being a band for so long and actually like having some of that out there. But it's weird. I love to tour. I love to play the shows. It's hard to just sit here. I mean, I like it. Like I like sitting in my office and, doing stuff online and being chronically on the internet when I'm at home. But it's, I do like to get out and hang out with the guys and get to feel like I'm a, 21-year-old dude again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting place where like fans who grew up with you now have the money and could probably support you with merch sales and buying vinyl. And it's like, they're probably not going to go to the show, but they could support you in other ways,
I never really think about it like that. I think there's like a certain age that I think I stopped feeling like I got older. So I just view myself as, like a 25, 26-year-old dude.
Same.
And I'm fucking 34 now, man. So it's like times have really changed, but I don't feel like I've changed. Like my heart has still maintained in the middle of all this. So it's kept me very youthful. Yeah. Which I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
Age is just a number. When it comes to that, obviously not trying to blanket that, but when it comes to your work and your dreams and shit, hey man, run it dead, bro. You're seeing bands like, I always use like ETID as kind of like a beacon, which like, rest in peace. But, they were a band for 20 plus years that like, if they can do it, bro, like any band can do it. Not discrediting ETID, but like, bro, they were just grinders and just made it seem like it was possible. So,
yeah, people are still out there, well past their prime or whatever. Just like, road dogs. I mean, you see like POD dropping new record and you're just like, how are y'all still going? Like, and people show up. So like good for you.
Actually played me a song. He's like, you'll never guess who this is, bro. I'm just sitting there through the whole song and he's like POD. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.